Good morning, everyone present here. I welcome you all to the 95th webinar of the Saturday webinar series by Managed CIA. I'm Zenith, working as Content Developer at Managed CIA. Talking about our center, the Center for Innovation and Agripreneurship is a center of excellence hosted at the National Institute of Agriculture Extension Management, and it's one of the leading agribusiness incubators in the country. And Managed CIA has till date supported 450 plus entrepreneurs and has incubated more than 300 agri startups from various focus areas of agriculture and life sector. The topic today's session, as you all know, is food tech startups, the regulatory framework and food safety management system. We have two speakers joining us today. Our first speaker for the day is Mr. Shanu Jacob. He's the Director of Food Safety and Standards of India, Southern Regional Office. Our director is also here. So would you like to say something?
Traveling, please go ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
it is nice to see you, Mr. Sanu Jacob, sir. Sir, welcome, sir. I am in Jaipur. Thank you very much for accepting and to be here today, sir. Thank you very much. You go ahead with.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll start with our first speaker for the day, Mr. Sanu Jacob. Um, so would you like to present from your end or should I present your presentation?
My side,
So you're on mute.
the share button is disabled. So if you can
No, I'll
enable.
just make you the presenter. Yeah, I'll make you the presenter in a minute. Meanwhile, I request all the attendees to use chat box to address all the questions to our speaker. We'll be taking up these questions during our Q&A round from 11:40 to 12 p.m. I've made you the presenter. You'll be able to present. Can you see the share option?
One second. There is a glitch. I have to, log out and log in because my Mac system preference is asking me to do that. Then only I can do the sharing, or else
I'll share it.
I think it can be the other way around.
Share it. Okay, just a minute. Give me a minute.
So, welcome, dear Manage, for the presentation, which I will be speaking on regulatory framework. And, I wholeheartedly thank the Manage for giving this opportunity. And I believe this target audience would be a mix of students as well as entrepreneurs, startups, and some industries. So I will be just, walking through different perspectives of FSSAI. What is FSSAI and what we are doing, how we are regulating, what are the regulations. And before, touching into the regulatory role, I would be also touching upon some of the, challenges, what we encounter in the food safety. So before going into the food, I hope my voice is audible.
Yes, it's fine, sir.
Perfect. So before going into the regulatory or regulations, let's understand food. So Zirath, can you take to the next slide? There was you skipped one slide.
Just a minute, I'm doing.
Yeah. So, The term food, it comes from an old English word or an old Frisian or a German word, Fordia. You might have heard the word fodder. And the purpose of fodder or food is to fuel, is to feed us or to give some fuel. Just like a car or a vehicle, it requires a fuel. So also our human body requires food so that we get some energy that stimulates the growth and also it maintains the life. And this food can be both nutritive and non-nutritive. And when there might be a doubts, what about this? They also get into the body some way or the other, either through alimentary canal or through skin pores. Can this be considered as food? Well, among this picture, I would say the one which is there on your extreme left and one there is on your extreme right, the chewing gum and the water are legally considered as food because the legal definition says, can you go to the next slide? Any substance, whether processed, partially processed, or unprocessed, which is intended for human consumption and includes primary food to the extent defined in the clause genetically modified or engineered food or food containing such ingredients, infant food, packaged drinking water, alcoholic drink, chewing gum, or any substance, including water, used into the food during its manufacture, preparation, or treatment. Well, the definition is pretty long. I'll just summarize this definition. Whatever you see on the blue fonts, they can be falling under the food category. So, including the genetically modified food, engineered food, water, alcoholic drink, chewing gum, and the water that is being used in the food preparation. Though water does not give any kilocalories or it has a zero calorific value, but yet it is considered as a food. And the red font, what is shown here, is they cannot be considered as food, like live animals, live feed, or even the live fruit, which is yet to be harvested, that is yet to be plucked. Okay, so they cannot be treated as food. So once it is harvested, yes, legally it falls under the definition of food. So also the drugs, medicinal products, cosmetics, narcotic, psychotropic substances. So all such things, they cannot be coming under the food. So this is the legal definition as per the FSSA Act. Next. So it's a highly interdisciplinary science since you're in manage deals with agriculture management, agri-food business. So we can link it with agriculture, we can link with biology, biochemistry, physics. I'm not elaborating here due to lack of time, but just give a in nutshell like geography, you can say the GI tagging of food. Tirupati Laddu, Hyderabad biryani, Ratnagiri Alfonso. So you can link all the sciences into food, including the law, which is largely dealt by the Food Safety and Standard Act. Next slide. There are two, issues when many of the students, they do ask what's the difference between food security and food safety. And it's very important. For a healthy life, we require both the things, the food safety, yes, and the food security also. So the food security, works on four principles. That is the availability. That means sufficient quantities of appropriate and quality food is available. And then the stability. That means even during shortage, emergency, or any crisis, the food is available. Then the access. The people should have access to this food. Okay, either through home production or buying it in the local market or through trade, and utilization. That means they are properly used, properly stored, and all this good principles of nutrition, health, hygiene, sanitation, etc. are applied. Next. So when we combine this food safety and food security, now the food security thrives on four pillars. I already mentioned food availability, food access, stability, poverty, this thing, and the food safety starts from the production till the consumer. That means farm to fork. So you have a supply chain here: production, process, distribution, retail, and food service, household. So, when we link together, the when they come together, then you can expect a good, healthy life, provided there is a good policy, and also, there is a good control on climate change, because sometimes the production of food also depends on the climatic condition or external factors, and this particular area, you can see here, the healthy life is a synergy between the food safety and the food security. So both are, no heads, no tail. They are equally important, and are part and parcel of the same coin. Next. So challenges, with food safety these days, like in Europe and all, our Indian milk, though we are number one milk producer, but our milk or milk products are not accepted in Europe. One, this thing is the mycotoxin, because of M1, M2, mycotoxins coming from a fungus is getting into the milk, and for that reason it is not accepted. So these are some of the challenges, largely coming from the microbial world, or from mycotoxin, or from some plant diseases. That is, the food also carry. So there is a strict quarantine that is in place. In fact, many of my port officers, they are attached to the plant and quarantine division, where they check for all such, incidents of diseases, whether it is coming or not. So this all are the challenges. Sanitation quality especially happens in the manufacturing plant. If there is a compromise in the sanitation quality, like the worker is not wearing a cap, or there is a drainage, not really covered, or, overflowing, there are chances of cross-contamination. So this all can, seriously affect the food safety. Allergen is intrinsic. Some of the food like shrimp, peanut, soya bean, you might have seen, there is a cautionary sign in labels also. We have, implemented recently the display regulation, where we have mandated that such allergens, because certain segment of the population, they are not good enough to adapt or to eat such specific foods, and they cause allergy. Then GMO, yes, there is a debate that is happening in the country whether to accept, not accept. So far, the regulation says no, and so GM also, I would say, it is a safety concern. And residue and adulteration, mainly coming from the, fertilizer, from the pesticide, antibiotic, put in the, while the farmer, want to save his crop, uh, and in the act of saving, they use indiscriminate use of some, pesticides at a high level, and those residues you can see in the food, which is again dangerous. Next. So, in a week, you will find all this kind of headlines, food safety compromised, or some kind of adulteration, or rotten meat, or some economic, frauds being carried out. So these are very popular, and for that reason, food safety is essential. Next. And this food fraud, it's a big subject. It requires another 2 hours to speak. But I'll just, give a glimpse. Like, you have this gray market production, theft, diversion, dilution, counterfeiting. Say, for instance, dilution like milk. You add water in the milk. So it's a economic fraud. Of course, it's not having safety issue, but definitely, yes, it is an economic fraud, or sometimes the real basmati is mixed with a look like basmati. That's a substitution is happening, or you put starch powder in the original turmeric to, to increase the volume. Counterfeiting, like, Coca-Cola, I had seen in WhatsApp, and You can see it, it is very similar in the logo or thing, but it's a duplicate. So such kind of frauds are also coming, and this is again one of the emerging area. Next. So in FSSAI, as per the regulation, as of now, we have identified certain contaminants, toxins, and residues. So 11 heavy metals like lead, copper, arsenic, tin, cadmium, mercury, nickel, chromium, methyl mercury, selenium, or antimony, all those things they have been identified. Likewise, we have for crop contaminant, we have for naturally occurring toxic substance, pesticide residue, antibiotic. See, when you see the pesticide, 20 have been banned, 20 antibiotics have been banned. So all such details you will get. I am just, taking you through the, giving you a glimpse so that you can later on you can go and look into the contaminants in detail. Next. So also we have this PCBs, PAH, and then the limits for the biotoxins in fish and fishery products because certain shellfish poison can also occur. So limits have been set. Next. Other contaminants like melamine, this was in 2008. There was a big challenge in China where to increase the nitrogen level, one of the fraud was done to add melamine in milk, which caused, infant deaths. So again, this kind of things are being regulated also by the FSI. Histamine in fish and fishery product, again, it causes allergy and certain list of fishes and what is the limit that has to be maintained is given in the regulation. Next. So, the next speaker will be speaking on FSMS. I'll just give a glimpse. Any food has to have these three, hazards, which are very common. The physical hazard, which can come through hair, stone, BD, cigarette, nails, if the or the even the rings, the factory workers are not taking care, it can go. Like one of physical hazard, we can. I will give an example of iron filing in tea, because the iron filing, the rusted iron nails and all, they look, very brown in color, something like the tea color. So they also get into in the tea manufacturing or in the packaging, and it can be a physical, it can choke if accidentally someone during the drinking is not taking sufficient caution or not taking straining the tea, then this can create challenges. So physical hazard is there. One next. Next. Then you have the chemical hazard, which I already indicated from the pesticide and from the antibiotics. Even from the factory, if it is not properly cleaned, the cleaning solution was used for cleaning the plates or the vessels, which was used in food manufacturing, and proper rinsing was not done, then the residues will be there for the next batch of food. Microbial hazard, again, very serious. It caused deaths. Some serious microorganisms like Salmonella, Listeria, E. coli, particular strain OS157. So there are, cases. A lady recently, died in Kerala after eating shawarma. So that was the Shigella toxin. So this is again very serious microbiology. It's, microbes are invisible. People are not aware, so they don't apply the proper principles of food, preservation, storage, and ultimately this microbes, they tend to grow and leave some toxins, and once it goes into the body, it can create a lot of health challenges and problems. Next. So another way is also the cross-contamination, not proper hygiene, keeping using the same utensil, what you're in manufacturing, also for the raw material or the drainage or the bathroom or the lavatory, they are very close to the manufacturing side. So such kind of cross-contamination can occur if you have not, segregated the area well. Next. So food safety is a need of the hour. because, because of our changing habits, because of the increased processing handling, it is, I would say, as I said in the beginning, food is fuel, and it is directly linked to the human growth or human population growth. So higher the population, you can expect a large demand for food and large change in the, changing process products, habits, and the global trade, market competition. So all these things, when it comes together, then it really becomes a concern, and food safety is really required. I'll give an analogy here. Say, for instance, if you don't have the traffic light in areas, then maybe for one or two cases that will be easy. I mean, the cars can go freely, but once the population of that particular town increase, and if there are no traffic light, then you can expect traffic jam, accidents, things like that. So a regulatory role is also like that, where we encourage that the people who are manufacturing or dealing with the food, they go with the self-compliance, just like how we do the self-attestation of our documents. So self-compliance, we do encourage because we believe food safety is a shared responsibility. And properly applying the food regulation that is being, released or issued by the regulator from time to time. Next. So food regulation in India, we have two, regulatory body. The domestic and the imported food is dealt by the FSSAI, and the exported food is dealt by the EIC. Fortunately, I had in both this organization. Past organization was EIC, and my current organization is FSSAI. So EIC, it does see the compliance of the importing country, whether the food that is being produced in India and before export, certain countries have made it, mandatory that their standards should be met and that should be certified by the EIC. Next. So the EIC comes under the Ministry of Commerce, close to 60 years. The establishment, was born in 1964. So just in 2 years, it will be 60 years. And the main, objective is to promote sound development of Indian export trade through quality control and pre-shipment inspection. When it was formed, this organization was formed, all the commodities, food, non-food, everything was covered. But later on, after the liberalization, only the notified commodities are in existent. And those notified commodities are mainly the foods. Can you go next? So these are the notified commodity. You can also get in the website. Almost all the food products except for fresh fruits and vegetable that is dealt by the APEDA. But other than that, almost everything is covered by EIC. Next. So coming to FSSAI, food safety or food, this thing is not something new. It was not born in 2006. It was there long back, right from our independence. And then it was felt that we should combine everything in one fold or one umbrella. And that's how the FSSA Act 2006 was born. And it is under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Next. So, we all, every food business operator, whoever is dealing with the food, I will give a definition of food business operator in my coming slides. So they are mandatory to have the license. Just like you want to, drive in the road, you need a license. Whether you are taking a scooter or a car or a bus, you need a license. So that is what here also any food business operator, they are supposed to get the license or the registration. And license can be two forms. One is a state license, which can be, if the turnover of the business is less than 20 crore and about 12 lakhs, then it is a state license. While if it is more than 20 crore, if the net revenue, what they earn is more than 20 crore or is happening in more than two or more states, or it's a five-star kind of a rank or a central government establishment, food business operator, then they have to take the central license, including the exporters, importers, they all fall under the central license. While you can see EGMARC is there, they are also doing it's on voluntary basis, but generally FSI do insist to see the EGMARC and the BIS. You can see the BIS mark in the packaged drinking water, infant food still, because their norms that has to be met before they submit their application for license or registration. Next. So as I said, in from 1947, there were different acts, orders, you will get all these details. And later in 2006, it was all amalgamated together and brought it as FSSA. Next. So once the FSI was born, in 2008 to implement the act, the FSSA was born. After the act came into limelight, and then 2011 onwards, the regulation started coming. And as per the regulation, all the food business operators, as I said, need to have a registration or license. And FSSA work on science based. We have scientific panel experts, and the purpose is to regulate the manufacture, storage, distribution, sale, and import of food for bringing whole and safe food to the Indian consumer. Next. So I already said all the old laws, everything were repealed, and they brought in one FSSA Act. Next. The main feature, again, the beauty of FSSA is that it's an integrated line of
So sorry
command.
to interrupt. I request you to wind up the session because
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. True. And licensing through single window, self-compliance, graded penalty, all such things are there. Next. I'll just quickly, so again, when we compare the old and the new, it is more process-based, it focus on the substandard food, while the previous laws, they were looking into the adulteration only. And there was no compounding of offense, adjudication, but now here, in the new law, it is all possible. Next. So who are covered? Everyone is covered. Anyone who is dealing with the food, importer, wholesaler, transporter, Swiggy, Zomato, even they're distributing the food, they are also covered under this act. Next. So FPO, whether you do it for profit, non-profit, anything, manufacture, catering, packaging, storage, they are all bound to have registration or license. Next. So these are all there in the website, but the act consists of 12 chapters. For food entrepreneurs, I would say try to see section 26 to 28, which tells the duties and responsibilities, and also schedule 4, and also offenses and penalties. That is also important, because once the punishment you are being aware, then you will be following it more responsibly. Next. So these are the offenses which are there from section 48. Next, you can get all these details till section 67. So I'm just, showing you here false information, unsafe food, if without a license when you carry, what kind of punishment you are liable to get. Next. So we work on 4 pillars again: Food Authority, Central Advisory Committee, Scientific Committee, Scientific Panel. In fact, Central Advisory Committee is a bit different. It is a state-central relation, because majority of this, I mean, all the states, they have their food commissioner, and enforcement is done by, it's a state subject. While central part will be dealt, central license enforcement is done by the central, that means the FSSAI, and any, regulation, it has to follow this steps like scientific panel, scientific food authority. Next. Next. So these are different divisions, and there are various standards, vertical and horizontal. Next. I'll just, walk through quickly. Uh, there are 21 panels. So horizontal panel means you can apply in all kinds of food, while vertical panel is specific to that particular food. Next. So, what gives the regulatory power? Because this sections 92, 93 speaks of the regulatory power that has been, empowered to FSI to take actions. Next. And of course, law, the regulation is something specific, which is the outcome of rules. Okay. And the main purpose is to, mend the behavior because humans are social. So to correct the procedure and behavior, this is very important. Regulations are important. Next. So just leave this. Next. This, so, we have a lot of regulation that has come. I have given the list. So as on for now, you can see from 2011 onwards, the regulation started coming. So we have 21 regulation. Skip next. Next. So these are, different regulations, import, alcoholic beverage. Next. Advertising, claim, packaging, it takes a whole day to explain all these things. I'm just giving you a glimpse. So the last one is the labeling and display. Next. So I already explained how the process of standards are being developed, scientific panel committee, food authority. And then in between, it is also put in the WTO for getting the public comment because India is a signatory. And after getting the stakeholder comment, again, it goes through the same flow and then finally comes as the notification. Next. So the federal structure, we have cities, districts, states, and this much of population and handful of people. But as I said, there is a state enforcement and the central enforcement. So the state, it is dealt by the food commissioners. Next. And every district will have the designated officer and the local, who goes and do the inspection, taking the sample, enforcement sample, surveillance. Everything is carried out by the food safety officer. So he brings the sample, give it to the designated officer. Designated officer, put it to a lab, primary lab, under section 43.1. And if it fails, then it can be sent to an appeal to a referral lab, which comes under the section 43.2. There are 20 labs. And then if it fails again there, then the legal proceedings can happen. Next. So this is what I explained, the different flow and things. Next. I already explained about the accredited lab and referral lab, how the designated officer is doing. Next. Food categories are also defined while for, applying for any registration or license. So based on your food type, like if it is a bakery product, you just go into the FOSCOS and look for that and apply. Next, if it is not there, then it will fall under some special category like, under 16, prepared food, proprietary food, such kind of thing. And 99 is something, some additives like color, enzymes, whenever you add in little quantity to magnify or qualify the food. So that category is also there. Next. We also have this, nutritionally, we also encourage Eat Right India because we believe Sahi Bhojan Behtar Jeevan. That means have the right food, you will have better life. And we have aligned it to very, almost all the flagship programs of different ministries. And in fact, I am in Vijayawada. Next tomorrow is we have a walkathon in Kakinada. And we are doing a Eat Right, walkathon campaign to bring social awareness. Next. So the purpose of Eat Right is to eat safe, eat
So
healthy, and eat sustainable.
I
Just
request
give me
you to,
two more minutes. I'll finish it off. Take it. So eat safe, eat healthy, and eat sustainable is the key three things. All these details are available. Why I am showing the slide? Because many of the colleges, universities have come forward and have become Eat Right campus. So it's also high time for manage institution. Your institution can also come forward and become a Eat Right campus. Next. The main purpose is to, bring awareness to reduce the intake of high fat, sugar, and salt. Next. So a lot of posters, a lot of ambassadors, Virat Kohli, Rajkumar Rao, they are all ambassadors of FSI who are promoting Aaj Se Thoda Kam. Next. Food fortification, again, the Honorable PM in his last Independence Day speech has emphasized that we should have fortification because of the challenges of malnutrition, undernutrition, vitamin deficiencies. So food fortification is again one of the flagship program which FSI has is looking into the standards. Next. So there is a separate center within the headquarters in FSI which looks after that. Next. And all the staple food, wherever you see this plus F logo, that means they are fortified. Next. It is aligned to different schemes, your ICDS, midday meal, PDS, etc. Next. We also are encouraging to become trans fat free because India is having the challenge of all this bad cholesterol, killing us, LDL, VLDL. So we want to make it zero. So regulations have been brought to 2%, and hopefully, maybe in the coming years, it will be totally 0% trans fat. Next. There are different initiatives. You can see all this logo, Javik Bharat, ROCO, FOSTAC. You will all get all this information, Eat Right, how we build. So we take all the people together with us and go hand in hand to launch all these schemes. Next. So whole society is being taken together. Next. Because we believe sabka saath, sabka prayas, then we have the real vikas. Next. So this is the eat right plate. Next, next, next. So we encourage to eat a lot of fruits, vegetables. Ultimately, the end is like we want to achieve food safety, where we want to bring, the people, planet, partnership, prosperity aligned with the sustainable development goal, because we want India to be healthy, the world to be healthy. Next. I think that's my last slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the detailed session. We'll now quickly move on to our next speaker for the day, Mr. Sahil. He's the founder of Teology, and he's an experienced health and food professional and with rich experience in the area of food, pharma, and food supplements. He's going to cover various aspects like food safety importance, parameters, benefit. Sir, I'll make you the presenter. Let me know if you're not able to present. I'll share it from my end then. I made you the presenter. Just let me know if you're able to present.
Yeah, I'm just trying to share the slide.
All the participants are requested to use the chat if you have any questions, so that we can take up with the speakers. We can see it, sir. Can go to
You
the
can
first
see
slide.
it?
And
Okay.
yes, we can see it. Just go to the first slide.
Sure.
And full screen. All good, sir.
Yeah.
Good
So
to go.
now it's visible,
Good
right?
to go.
Okay.
Good to go.
Good morning, everyone and friends. It's my honor and privilege to share my knowledge on food safety and management. As my fellow speaker have already mentioned about FSSAI, so I won't go deep into it, but I would also say that food safety management systems are a part of SSI. So you have to have these systems in place before you can get a proper license or registration from FSSAI. I myself am a founder of a food technology startup called Teology. We deal into tea and coffee beverages and spices. So I would be briefing you about the basic concepts, why food safety is important, what is food safety management systems, why food safety is important in the day-to-day role, also what are the types of contaminations, key elements of to ensure the food safety. Then the parts of it like good manufacturing practices, Hsccp, GMP benefits, and also especially for my agricultural friends, what are the benefits or what care you should take after the post-harvest of the agriculture produce. So first of all, what is food safety? It is basically a utilization of various resources and strategies to ensure that the food that you are serving to the people or preparing or storing the people are safe for consumption. It should be proper, it should be safe for human consumption. Then the second concept is that the food should not cause any harm to the consumer when it's prepared. When it's prepared in the sense when it's made from hand or from the other machinery which is being used to make it. It is also a scientific discipline that you can prevent, or you can prevent the foodborne diseases, which is the #1 contributor of diseases in young children, and also people, kids under the age of 4. So you can prevent that by having less number of concepts which can be held in handling, storage, process, and also the process of the food. There will also be a food safety hazards, but that can be controlled if you understand how the food becomes contaminated and how to prevent this. What is food safety management system? It's a system which is a network of interrelated elements that combine to ensure that the food does not cause adverse human health effects. As I mentioned before, the food should be safe for human consumption. These elements include a program which includes plan, policies, procedures, practices, processes, goals, objectives, methods, controls, roles, and responsibilities, and a lot of documentations and SOPs. So it's basically a cycle, and it's all interrelated. You can't skip any part in this. So why is food safety important? Why is it beneficial to organization? You may ask. Well, it enables organizations to demonstrate the ability to control food safety hazards, which I'll talk in my slide later. What are the hazards? I'll tell in details. Also, it helps the organization to maintain the compliance to all the statutory and regulatory bodies, including the FSSAI, because FSSAI has a lot of arms which take care of your auditing and everything else. It maintains that compliance. It also assesses and meets customer requirements, because now people are more aware and see what and they are now seeing all the labels, and they know what are used in what product is used in the ingredients. They check the ingredient list and how and where it is made. Also, it communicates the food safety information throughout the food chain. It enables and updates the system of evaluation. Also, it ensures, again, the basic concept of food safety management is to give a safe food for human consumption. Why is food safety important? As I said, foodborne illness is preventable. It is highly preventable, but also it's underreported problem. It presents a major challenge to both the people the general people, and also at-risk people who are having diabetes or hypertension or any other co-related illness, like we might have seen in COVID. Of course, COVID was not caused due to food, but then there were a lot of major implications if you had something else, some other health risk. Also, each year, million of illness in India can be attributed to contaminated food. We might have seen a lot of schools getting in midday meals. They might be getting some adulterated food, or there would be something there. So a lot of children get ill, and because of that, they are ill, and that contributes to a lot of problems. And most of the people, which are the kids under 4, are the highest people who get that laboratory confirmed infection through various microbiological hazards and contamination. So types of contaminations, as my fellow speaker already mentioned, I'll like to mention it in a bit of detail, that there are 3 types of major contaminations. One is physical contamination, second is chemical contaminations, and micro and microbiological contamination. So physical contamination, as my fellow speaker already mentioned, there are a lot of contamination. As far as my company is concerned, we deal into teas. But if you have noticed, there are a lot of tea bags available in India where they use staple pins to staple the thread with their tea bag. That is one of the major health hazard and major physical hazard, because that's an iron. And if it sometimes fell in that packet, then it will cause a major hazard in your body as well. So we actually at our company have eliminated that. We use all the heat sealed pouches. Secondly, there are a lot of hazards when you take into consideration, say, food tech or even pharma, hair, stones, which are not even allowed in their facilities. They have to cover their entire body, like for health. They have to have a hair cap, they have to have a mask, they have to have gloves everywhere. So that prevents a human interaction and the physical contamination via human. Also, jewelry is not allowed in many of the manufacturing facility. In most of them, they don't allow that. Then you have to take care of all the BD, cigarette, when there are a lot of things, small like tobacco, and then stones, and even some kind of contamination can happen if you have different lines producing different products, like for example protein bars or food bars. There are some people have nut allergy, so that might jump in, or that might go in the other packaging line. So that is also physical contamination. There was someone who was asking for a chemical contamination slide, so you can have a look at that. This is an invisible contamination, basically, because people are not aware that it can cause contamination, but chemical contamination is one of the major things which cause illness. Major components are like the cleaning chemicals which are used to clean the equipment. If there's a residue, or if they if it is not properly dried or properly cleaned, that can cause contamination in the food. Then there are adulterants. A lot of adulterants are added. For example, in what you call chili powder, people add a brick powder, red brick powder, to make it more cheaper or to sustain the cost. So they do that on regular basis. That is a major health hazard. Then you have other permissible foods, and also excessive. If any excessive additives are added, then also it's a problem. And microbial hazard, as my colleague already told you. So there are bacteria, yeast, different types of molds, viruses, all are there present. Also macrobiological hazards, which you can see visibly, like insects, flies, which are all time around, especially the season of monsoon, you see insects and flies everywhere in the production area somewhere. So you have to have that clean. Then basic elements of the safety. There are at least 5 to 6 elements. But the 3 basic elements that you should follow as a startup are good manufacturing practices, that hazard analysis, which is Hsccp principles, and also operational PRPs, which is prerequisite processes. So why is GMP important? So GMP is basically good manufacturing practices, which is important for every food company and every pharma company. What it follows is they have a prerequisite programs, which are processes that work alongside the Hsccp system. So basically, if you have a GMP certified or GMP compliant plant, that will prevent a lot of things, or a lot of contamination, and give you a safe production of the food. Also, the Hsccp, the WHO defines that practices and conditions need a prior to it during the implementation of Hsccp. So basically, it's a precursor for getting a Hsccp license or Hsccp thing. Secondly, it's a prerequisite program for the foundation of Hsccp system. Example of PRPs can be facilities, or the production equipments, or the standard operating procedures that you have to follow. And then you have supply controls, production specifications, and traceability. So good manufacturing GMP, you can get GMP certified. There are a lot of licensing agencies that you can already always go and see on the FSSAI website, food safety website. So what GMP offers, it offers a minimum sanitary and processing conditions which are required to properly produce a food processing plant. When implemented, the GMP not only reduces the forms of biological, chemical, and physical contamination, but it also reduces or eliminates the existing contamination. GMP benefits. So you would say, why GMP benefits? Because it says that the businesses use a good practice to manufacture food. Like you can see in the below picture that they have properly covered everything. Even workers are wearing all the proper dress code. They have all the lines which are properly clean. You can see a neat and clean process, and the hands are not touched to even single. This is a biscuit production line. So they are not touching their bare hands. They're using gloves, and it's properly systematically given. That helps lower the cost of organization to produce any food. Also, it meets all the legal requirements which are necessary to get Hsccp and other ISO licensing. Now coming to Hsccp, what it is. Basically, it is hazard analysis critical control points. So it can be a part of GMP, and it's more of a preventative approach rather than a compliance approach, but it's more of a preventative approach. It is also recommended to control the possibility of allergen. As I mentioned, if there are 2 packaging lines, one is producing the bars with nuts and one is producing with chocolate, and sometimes the nuts might fall into the other line, that can create allergen thing, because there might be people who are allergen to nuts, and then when in the label, if it's not mentioned, that's why you might have noticed a lot of labels also mention that it is processed on the same line which produces these chocolates. So that's why there's the allergen now info given. It also addresses all the physical, chemical, and biological hazards. And this approach has a significant benefit to organization, because it's a process that enables everyone to determine the key controls and to concentrate all the resources on the effective and critical food, which can be safe for human consumption. So what are the 3 basic questions which Hsccp answers? First is what? What are hazards? As I mentioned in my previous slides, you know all the hazards. So it answers all these three questions. What are hazards? Where do these hazards come from? And how can we control or eliminate these hazards? It consists, Hsccp consists of basically 12 steps. So first of all, you should have a proper team. They should have a proper know-how of all these systems. So you can have a proper team which consists of say microbiologists, a proper chemist, and also lab people. So they should have a proper team, and also some sanitary workers are also involved in this. Then you should have a proper process that should be defined for making a bar or a tea or a food, anything. That process should be laid down, and then you should have intended use for that process. Okay, fourthly, you should have a proper flow chart and how the processes are working, and if any edit or any things are required, you should always add that and properly maintain that flow chart. Then you should list all the critical points that needs to be taken care of, like any hazards are there, if there's any health hazard, or if there is an electric hazard, or for example, in the tea processes, there are something where you have the silos, or where you have small vessels where you store the teas. You should see that it should not be contaminated. It should be free from pest. That should be taken care of, and it should be free of the chemical components, chemical cleaning agents. Then you should determine all the critical points and make a list of it, that what needs to be taken care of, and you should establish a proper limit for them, that this is permissible limit and it should not be over that. And then you should document and monitor all these things. So basically, it's a cycle of 12 stages which should be done to maintain all the principles of Hsccp. And as I said before, this is especially for the people who have agri startup or who are into agriculture. Why is food safety required during the post harvest period? Because see, there are many things related to the harvesting process. First of all, first and foremost is the cleanliness of work concern, because in India, majorly still people don't use a lot of machines to harvest the product. So the cleanliness of worker hands are mandatory. It should be taken care that wherever possible, it should be properly done. And packaging houses should be the big go downs, and there is a lot of things that there can be rodents and many insects or something. So it should be taken care. It should be rinsed properly. It should be disinfected on time to time basis. Then cold storage. A lot of foods are now getting a lot of big cold storage forms are now opening. For example, for fruits, vegetables, which stay in for long. But that should be taken care, because if it's not taken care, if it's not washed with regular or fumigated regularly, there is a problem that can develop, molds and fungi inside the van. That should inside the van or inside the cold storage. So that should be taken care of. And again, as I said, the transport vehicle should be clean. It should not be contaminated, because that is the first point that should be taken care of, because that's the most common point where the infection or the contamination takes place. Also at the producer level grading. So now people have now started using automatic machines for grading, but initially it was done through hand. Like, if the damaged ones are there, or the bruised ones are there, or ripe ones are there, they were kept separately. So now all these machines are used, but that is mandatory, because then what happens is it doesn't affect the other product. Like if there's for example, apple, if there's a damaged apple, or if it's a ripened apple, or if it's a bad apple, you should have different sorting for that, which ensures that the final product which goes out in the market has a proper shape or proper color and proper size. And you should avoid the mixture, like adulterant should not be there, or a coloring matter. As I mentioned, in chili powder, a lot of people still add red brick powder. So that should not be done, because it's not safe for human consumption. Again, packaging is one of the more important thing, because nowadays we are moving free from plastic packaging. So there are a lot of paper packaging, but sometimes we need to make sure that they have the plastic lining or a Teflon coating inside, so that can be done. And you should take care of that, so that there is a lot of no issues are there considering the packaging. Lastly, I come to food safety standard. So ISO 22000, which is a generic food safety management. I would suggest there are a lot of government schemes which help you to get all these things. If you are MSME, you can also check on the MSME website. Also, it doesn't matter how the complex your organization is, what side it is, but ISO 22000 ensures that the food is safe for human consumption, and the safety of food is always maintained. It also integrates the Codex Alimentarius Commission's 7 principles of Hsccp. In detail, if you need, I can always go on, but then you can connect me after this, so I can tell you all the other details of this. and also take care of all the good hygienic practices like GMPs, good agriculture practice, good production practices. It takes care of all these things. Okay, that was it about from me. I gave you a brief and why food safety management is necessary for food startup and agri startup. And I'm open to questions if any. Thank you.
Thank you, both the speakers for sharing an extensive knowledge on food safety and regulations. There are quite a few questions are there. I'll quickly run through two of them. There are the questions specifically about biofortified foods, sir, to Shanu sir. Sir, can you please elaborate? Is there any specific permissions to be taken for biofortified foods? The second question being packaging. You know, most of the food manufacturers cannot afford, especially small time people, small startups.
Sorry, you are not audible.
Am I not audible, sir?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're audible.
there was a problem.
Yes, sir. I was talking about two aspects. First aspects, biofortified foods. Is there any special permission required? Second and most important aspect, packaging, because most of the food startups cannot afford a dedicated packaging units. They need to outsource it. What kind of a precautions they should take when they outsource it, sir? These two I was talking about. I would request to go in the same order. Sanu sir followed by Sahil. Yes, sir.
There is no special for biofortification. What exactly do they mean by the biofortification? Biofortification happens if you are trying to, improve the crop through some breeding trial or improving the vitamin A or, some nutritional content. And the other fortification is, directly adding what, like in milk, or you add the fortificant artificially to enhance the quality of food. So does the biofortification here meant what is being done in the farm?
At this juncture, as they are working on rice, sir, so assumed that at farm.
So there is no, I mean, it will be still treated as, rice. So, so in that way, because that's a genetic characteristic of that particular crop. Some, like say for instance, some mangoes have, good amount of vitamin C, but some may not. So there are varietal differences can occur. So in that way, if you are using it in a breeding program and bringing a biofortified food, or even through the farming where you tend to also put some foliar spray like zinc or micronutrient, which is essential. Uh, I don't think there is any special FSSAI recognition or things like that. Only if you're adding it artificially, as per the standards, then you need to have the plus F, uh, which is again, the company can add on to give awareness to the consumer that this particular milk or the staple food rice or the atta has been fortified.
Thank you, sir. I would request Sahil sir to address on packaging issue.
Yeah, no, for said there are a lot of costs involved in packaging properly, but when they are doing a contract manufacturing, or if they are getting a contract manufacturing somewhere at the other place, I believe they should check all the basic things, that if it's compliance with the food safety management, if they have a FSSAI license, because if they have FSSAI license, they would have the compliance to a limit where FSSAI consider it's good to go for production. And of course, you should have a person who can monitor on regular basis if the packaging is doing properly, it's being done properly. And yes, there is even personally, I also initially when we started from a small space and we were doing contract manufacturing, but we ensured the quality, because at the end of the day, quality is what matters. And then, of course, your brand will grow if you keep the quality up to the mark, especially from packaging point of view. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I would request Jeanette to unmute Ghanshyam. We will take a couple of questions directly from our participants before we wrapping up. Ghanshyam, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Please, you can ask your question.
Actually, there is no question as such, but it was excellent one, and we want to listen Sanu sir again. Actually, you have given a very limited time to him, sir.
Yes, sir. This is more like to create awareness, sir, rather than sharing a knowledge. This is meant for create awareness. We'll be sharing their details, mail IDs. You can take it forward. We'll move to the next one.
I request you, sir, that give means again organize a new webinar and give at least 1 to 2 hours to Sanu sir.
Well, all the details are already there, but I'll be glad to assist. I am not an expert. It all comes by learning. And just like you, I am also a learner. And with every questions that come from the audience, it also excites me to find a solution. Most of them, almost 90%, I'm able to answer and give a satisfactory reply. Yes, I do agree. It was very short. I had 71 slides and I had to really quickly, go through each slides very quickly to understand the food safety management system and the regulation. It takes, at least 2 or 3 days. Maybe next time we can have it. There are different appropriate forms where FSSI do conduct such trainings, not only myself, but even in the headquarters, they have this training division organizers. So I would suggest you participate in those. So you can participate in that. You can post your questions there also. And also you can write it to us on emails. That is also fine. And we will reply.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much. Would like to thank both the speakers for taking their time out and coming here. So we'll be sharing all the details, recorded videos, so that anything you miss during the webinar will be able to cover it again. So please note that Manage Sammunati Startup Awards is open and tomorrow is the last date. Any of the agri startups here want to get recognized, kindly use that. So the link has been just given. I would like to thank our Director General Manager, Director Agriculture Extension, Dr. Sharonan Raj, our teammates here, and all our attendees for taking their time out. So we'll wish you all the best for the rest of the day, and we welcome you to the next day. Thank you very much, sir. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.